Hi everyone, so today what I want to go over is a combination of chipping and pitching. So what we want to really make sure that we know the difference between the two is a chip is something that doesn't carry a lot, goes low, and then rolls out a lot. And then with a pitch, what we're going to be seeing with this, it's going to carry quite a bit, and it's going to land soft and not roll out that much. So those are going to be the two key different characteristics that we're kind of looking for with a chip or a pitch. So for a chip, what we're generally going to want to see a little bit more of is we're going to be looking to have a little bit lower loft of the club. So when I mean by lower lofted, what we're going to be kind of seeing a little bit more of is something that's going to be a 9-iron or a pitch and wedge with those. So for example, with a pitch, we're going to be looking to be more into a sand wedge or a lob wedge to make sure that we can really get that golf ball up in the air. So with the setup with a chip, what we're going to be generally wanting to look for is we're going to be wanting to be somewhere more in the middle of our stance. So the reason why I like to set up a little bit more in the middle of our stance compared to more in the back of our stance is it's a combination of two things. We're going to be having a little bit better spin with the golf ball. That's going to be a little bit more predictable. And then also with contact and how that golf club is interacting with the ground, it's going to be a lot more consistent as well. So what we'll generally see is if I go ahead and put in more in the back of my stance, what I'm going to look for is it's going to be very easy for me to go ahead and get that club dug into the ground. So we're going to be having a lot more inconsistent strikes because what we're doing is we're going ahead and exposing the leading edge a lot more. And when we do that, it's going to be a lot more susceptible for us to dig that golf club into the ground. So when we have it more in the middle of our stance, what we're going to be seeing is it's going to be a lot harder for me to go ahead and dig that club into the ground. As you can kind of see right here, it's just kind of gliding through that turf. And that's one of the main reasons why we want to make sure that we're doing this with our chips. So we're going to always make sure that we're playing it more in the middle of our stance right there. So the other reason why we want to make sure that we're doing is when we put it more in the back of our stance, what we're doing is we're having a lot more, or not a lot more, but a lot less loft with the golf ball. So for example, if I have a 9-iron, I'm going to maybe turn that into a 7-iron. And I'm not going to be able to control the speed or the spin as well if I go ahead and deloft it. The more loft we have, the more spin we have, and I always think that's a good thing. So what we always want to make sure, again, is we're just going to be going ahead and having it a little bit more in the middle of our stance with that. So when we're taking this club back, what we're always going to be looking for is it's going to be low back and low through. So the reason why we want to make sure that we're doing that is the lower that we come back and come through, the lower the golf balls go. The higher that we come back and come through, the higher the golf ball is going to go. So the idea for a chip is we want to make sure that's going low and then it's rolling out quite a bit with that. So I'll go ahead and show that right here. So again, that carried out not a lot and rolled out quite a bit. And that's what we're wanting to make sure that we're seeing with a chip. So the other thing that we always want to make sure that we're doing with a chip and a pitch for that matter is we want to make sure that we're brushing the ground quite effectively. So the louder the brush that we have, the more golf ball that we're going to get. The less ground that we get, the less golf ball we're going to get as well. So if you have trouble blading or topping the golf ball, we're always going to want to make sure that we're going ahead and brushing that ground right there. And the other thing that we always want to make sure that we're doing is we're going to be following the golf ball all the way through. So we never want to go ahead and stop, because what's going to happen is exactly that, is we're going to go ahead and dig that club more into the ground. And we want to make sure that we have a little bit more consistent ground contact. So if I go ahead and just stop, it's going to be a lot easier for me to go ahead and blade and scold that shot. So we're always going to want to make sure that we're going to have this pivot on the way through. So we're always going to make sure that our chest, our head, and our body is going to be pointing towards that general direction of where you want that golf ball to go with that. So with a pitch, what we're going to be seeing with this is we're going to be going ahead and setting this golf ball more into the front of our stance right here. So what we're going to be seeing with this is I like to kind of think of it as center of our stance is going to be off of our nose. A little bit more in the front of our stance is going to be off of our lead ear. And then back of the stance is going to be off of our trail ear. So with that, we're going to be going ahead and putting the golf ball more in the front of our stance right there. So we're going to be having it more in the front of our stance. We're going to be having that off of our lead ear. And then what we're going to be wanting to make sure that we're seeing with this is we're going to be having that club face open just slightly. So for example, this square, we're just going ahead and opening that up just a little bit. So when we do that, that's going to add a little bit more loft to be able to get that golf ball in the air a little bit more effectively. So with this as well is we're not going to have any type of shaft lean like we do with a chip. What we're going to see a little bit more of is we're going to be having this button in the grip pointing directly towards our belly button. And again, this is going to help by getting this club, or not the club, but the ball into the air. And what's also going to be doing is we're going to have a little bit more bounce relief. And what I mean by bounce is it's going to be more of the back of this club right here. And when we do that, it's going to be harder for me to dig this club into the ground. So we're going to be having a little bit more consistent shots with that as well. So that's what we're going to be wanting to see with the setup. So for example, for a chip, we're off of our nose. We're having a little bit of shaft lean right there. And then what we're seeing with a pitch is we're putting it off of our lead ear. We're having the button in the grip kind of pointing more towards our belly button right there. And then we're having the club face just slightly open with that. So with a pitch, what we're going to want to see is we're going to be going ahead and taking a little bit longer of a swing back and a little bit longer of a swing through. So the main thing that we want to do with these shots is we're not going to be hitting them. What we're going to be doing is actually just shoving the golf ball. So we're just trying to kind of push that golf ball to where it needs to go with that. So we're never trying to hit it, because the main thing that we want to see with this is this golf ball kind of travels slowly in the air, just lands and stops. So the harder we hit, the faster it's going to go, and the less likely that we're going to see that golf ball just stay where we want it to go. So for example, this is kind of what we're going to want to see a little bit more with a pitch. So as you can kind of see with that, it went higher, didn't roll out as much, and that's what we're going to want to see with those two shots right there.